I think what we're going to do is we're going to start at the beginning of this little booklet or book, 93-page document. I figure we'll start at the top and kind of work our way down. Obviously, we've already done the section on compound squeezes, but we'll start out with like the most basic stuff, simple squeezes and whatnot, and see if we can get a little bit more insight into how these sorts of things work. And I would say that it's not just going to be for beginners. It's not just going to be for experts. I'm going to try and keep the terminology to a minimum in terms of like the advanced stuff. Like he's going to talk about all of these like R and L squeezes and whatever and stuff like that, which I think I'm coming to learn is just like the right hand opponent and left hand opponent. But I'll try and keep it to the basic terms that I normally use when I'm talking about card play and stuff. So we'll skip all the nomenclature stuff. Maybe we'll take a brief look at the rules for all squeezes, whatever that means. I don't think there are really rules, and new types of squeezes get found all the time. So it's not like there's a one-size-fits-all thing to every sort of squeeze. It's not like it always works with one loser or always works with two losers or something like that. But we'll start there and see how far we can go. Introduction. This book is a summary of the squeeze positions that every good bridge player, double space, oh my god, I get so triggered by this stuff, should know, and the requirements for their execution. Extremely rare squeezes are not included. Well, maybe a few. We'll see. I always mention this, and I always like to bring it up. Like, you don't need to understand squeezes to be a good bridge player. You don't need to understand squeezes to win a world championship. I mean, you probably need to have some sort of familiarity with like a bunch of the basic stuff. But even the compound squeezes that we looked at last time, I can guarantee that a bunch of people who played in the Bermuda Bowl are not familiar with compound squeezes. They might have, I'm sure they've heard of them. I'm sure that they might have seen a position or two, but a lot of them probably could not execute compound squeezes at the table, would be my guess. And you don't need to be able to be an excellent bridge player. Like, this stuff is helpful, but it's helpful in gaining a couple of extra percentage points on your chances for making a contract. And it allows you to play into like more favorable end positions that give you more chances if you understand these squeezes. But that's about it. Like, the most important thing is being able to work out the full hand, like make deductions about where missing honors are, that sort of stuff. Guessing queens, very important. All of these sorts of things. So squeezes, super cool and can definitely aid you in improving your card play, but not all that relevant in terms of actual bridge skill. Eric says there's a quote from maybe Clyde Love's book, which said that you can win tournaments without knowing about squeezes, but you'll win them more if you do. I think that's a good way of putting it. But I think that people often overvalue the idea of like studying squeezes when it comes to card play. It's so important to get like the basics down, and like even the best players in the world sometimes struggle with basics. I mean, I'm not talking about the USBC mixed trials, but something of that nature seems to happen an awful lot, even at the highest level of the game. So, you know, you can study these things and they're cool. And I think it is fun and helpful and useful to learn about squeezes, especially for people who have already kind of become experts or masters in the basics. But yeah, it's really not that important, but nonetheless, I think it is still fun and interesting. And for me, I really do enjoy looking for squeezes and whatnot. So clash squeezes are not included. I don't remember what those are. For those interested, thorough treatment can be found in the Bridge World's website. Okay, that was a hyperlink. Let's go back. It has a fine article on Clash Squeezes by Xiaobo Zhang in its Esoterica section. Saturated squeezes are not included either. An article by Don Kersey appeared in the Bridge World in August of 2003. So I never found a date on this thing, but I guess it's post 2003 then. I also don't know what saturated squeezes are. I think this is the first time I've ever heard that term. So maybe if I was showed the position, I would get it. The purpose of the book is not to teach novices about squeezes, but to serve as a review for those who are already acquainted with the subject. Okay. That's good to know because, we're not going to be like setting up the basic ideas of squeezes in the book. Hey, Koopa. Some new nomenclatures included. Can I make this bigger? That's probably better, right? This is much better. Based on perceived need, many thanks to Alvin Bloomfield, Tim Westmeads, and especially to eagle-eyed Danny Kleinman. Bostier says Wikipedia says the key feature of a saturated squeeze is that it involves threats in all 4 suits, and all 4 threats are necessary for the squeeze to function. I don't know what that means, but thank you. Clash squeezes are a real thing. Yeah, like that's like I remember hearing the term clash squeeze. I don't remember hearing the term saturated squeeze, but all right, nomenclature. Maybe just a brief look at this because the book is going to reference a lot of it. I'm going to try and remove all of the nomenclature as possible. Definitions for terms are presented in a logical order. Squeeze, a play that forces a discard that will cost a trick sooner or later. Okay, I'm going to have to disagree on this one. Because there are things called information squeezes where someone doesn't get squeezed out of an actual card. But imagine a situation where you need to guess a jack in a suit. I think this is like the, I'll in quotation, simplest form of an information squeeze because you can actually set up a hand like this. I don't think I can do it from memory, but I have seen information squeezes where you have a suit that's like ace, king, 10, 9 opposite queen, 4th, right? And you get to squeeze someone down into making a discard from a different suit. So now you can count out their hand and they can no longer have 4 cards in the suit where like you're trying to guess the jack. That's basically how this information squeeze works. So it has nothing to do with like gaining a trick. You could always take the finesse if you knew who had the length in the suit, but this is a way that you can ensure that you always get a count on the hand, is how information squeezes happen. So again, that's a vague description, but yes, I mean, like I'm not convinced that this is a definition for squeeze. Anyway, there's a Bridgemaster hand like that, a triple repeating information squeeze. Yeah, I mean, something of that nature. I mean, I'm sure I've played through them. I mean, one of the big ones that I distinctly remember is Gittleman's last article that he wrote, which I think is like, if you had that link to the thing. Is that the one that Rosenberg played? The one where you like play one suit, play another suit, play one suit, play another suit? Maybe that falls in information squeeze category. Yeah, I would say yes. That's an example of an information squeeze. I think these ones where like you guess the jack are a lot prettier though, in the sense that like you can make the contract, but like you just need to figure out who has 4 cards in the suit. So that's the one that like sticks out in my mind is like when you need to guess who could have 4 cards. Yeah, Greg's referencing the one that Rosenberg played, which is in the Bridgemaster thing. Okay, squeeze card, a card that squeezes the hand. Squeezee, the squeezer, the hand containing the squeeze card. Threat, a loser that the defender must guard from becoming a winner. So I'll probably use terms threat and guard just because I think those are relatively well known, but I'm probably going to try and ignore most of these other terms. So threat is a loser. So it's like we think of like a 2 as being a threat. Here, I'll set up a simple squeeze so that we can get a look at like what's going on. So this is basically the form of a simple squeeze. I mean, technically this one would be called an automatic simple squeeze, I believe, if I have the terminology correct. But the idea here is that when the ace of clubs gets cashed, so West on lead makes this version because they're playing the card. So West is the one who's enacting the squeeze on their partner, which is the reason for that sort of. Maybe I'm not supposed to say this in YouTube because otherwise my video will get banned. Anyway, the that's just the terminology for it. So East has to find a discard in this position. If they discard the ace of spades, the king of spades wins. If East discards a heart, then the 3 of hearts. And so this 3 of hearts card is what's known as a threat in this position. And the king, queen of hearts, as well as the ace of spades, are things known as guards. So they are guarding the threat. You can think of it maybe in like, I don't know, some sort of sports terms. And so like, you're trying to protect against this 3 of hearts, so you need to have as many cards as like the 3 of hearts, basically, or the ace 3 of hearts, sort of thing. So, okay, that's basically what a simple squeeze is. If East discards a heart, then we just play a heart to the ace, and the 3 of hearts takes the last trick. And so this is the idea behind simple squeezes at the very least. Okay, so those are threats and guards. Guard is the opponent's card that prevents a threat from becoming a winner, and the threat is that card. Greg, do you do that often to your partners? Did I do this to you? I feel like I definitely could have done that. Okay, threat types, blah, blah. We're kind of going to ignore a bunch of this stuff. Okay, so L stands for left-hand opponent, R stands for right-hand opponent, and then there's a bunch of other types of threats that they use for nomenclature. Extended threat. So this is kind of a thing. I mean, this comes up a little bit often. I did. I don't apologize in any way, but that does sound exactly like something I would do. So extended threats are basically like if you have extra length in a suit. Let me see if I can come up with an example of an extended threat. Okay, very good. So here, North has an extended threat where they have extra length in the heart suit here. So that's basically all an extended threat means. And what happens here is that East gets squeezed in 3 suits. Obviously, if they pitch one of their aces, then South gets to win the ace of clubs, cash the king that is now set up, and East will once again be squeezed. So instead, if they pitch the queen of hearts, well, neither of these kings are good, but now all of Dummy's hearts take tricks. So the extended threat has the possibility of taking more than one extra trick if an opponent discards from it, or discards too many times. That's basically how an extended threat works. So I think those are all of the basic terminology that we might need to look at using. And then they have a bunch of other stuff as well. Vienna coup, I actually talk about this a lot of time. We can pull up an example of that, actually. I mean, this isn't a perfect example because West is going to help us execute the Vienna coup, but let me just try and give 2 examples here. So that does sound like something I have done in the past. So West leads a diamond, and now when we play a club to the ace, East gets squeezed. So, they pitch the king of diamonds, for example, and now the queen of diamonds cashes, this sort of thing. We've seen this before. But if we go back and we change West's hand where they lead a club immediately, it looks like East is once again getting squeezed, but it doesn't exactly work because we haven't unblocked the diamond ace. So king of clubs, East kind of gets squeezed here. If they pitch a heart, then the ace two of hearts take a trick, but they can safely pitch a diamond. And now because we haven't unblocked the ace of diamonds, sure, we can set up the queen, but now we're trapped in North's hand. So the idea of a Vienna coup is to just unblock a suit so that we kind of have communication between hands. But it's not like you always want to go about like cashing all of your side aces and kings because some squeezes operate only if you have entries to both hands. And so there's no like default plan here in squeezes. Okay. Notes, compass directions, blah. South is the hand with the last F. What is an F winner? Oh my God, what is an F winner? Because this keeps getting said. What is an F winner? F suit. A suit with winners, but no significant threat. Dude, the double spaces are killing me between words. Free suit and free winners. Okay. South is the hand with the last F winner, free winner. Usually the squeeze card, South is often referred to as declare. Defenders can execute squeeze, so the words declare and defenders, who use with the understanding rules, can be reversed. Situations are shown with high cards only for clarity. Most of the hand diagrams would be impossible positions in actual play, but using King Jack, for instance, instead of 7-5 makes it easier for comprehension. Fair enough. Rules for squeezes. Okay. Correct for declare. Correct. Rectify the loser count as early as possible, often at trick 1. So rectifying the loser count means like getting down to a number of losers so that the squeeze can operate. Because sometimes, let's go back. Let me. West leads the king of clubs, and East. Wait for it. Okay, this I almost screwed this up. Okay, East does get triple squeezed on this trick. Not the greatest example, but this will show why entries are important. So if East pitches a heart, if East pitches the ace of spades, then they get into some trouble. Because now the king of spades cashes, we can pitch a diamond, and East gets squeezed once again out of the rest of their tricks. But if East pitches from either red suit, they still end up scoring a trick eventually. So this was not a very good example. This was a really bad example of rectifying the count. Well, we'll see better examples later. Okay, you got the idea. I'm sure. That was perfectly executed. I did great. We'll move on. Okay. Don't overlook a dummy reversal, which may be a superior line of play. These are very random ideas. Remember to perform Vienna coup when necessary. Cash all winners not needed for the squeeze position as early as possible. So this is, strictly speaking, completely unnecessary in a lot of cases. I mean, when we looked at compound squeezes, we saw examples where it was absolutely necessary to cash all of the side winners. But most squeezes are going to still operate by not cashing all of the extraneous cards early. The issue is that you make your life so much easier by doing this. Sometimes you get a full count on the hand by doing this, and then for a lot of squeezes that don't just happen automatically, you'll be able to know with certainty, assuming you've been counting, what the shapes of the opponent's hands are and what cards they're holding on to. And other times it can clarify the honor layout in some sort of situations, because people won't be able to like just dump high cards most of the time throughout the hand. And so even if you don't get a full count, you'll be able to have a better read on like where the missing cards are, I guess, is the way to phrase it. And then sometimes it actually is necessary for the squeeze. So it's generally never wrong to do this, and it can only help. But you want to be careful about stripping a hand of all its entries, or stripping a hand of too many entries. One of the common errors made by inexperienced players is to cache all of dummies' high cards before playing off the high cards in their hand. This usually ensures that there will be no squeeze. I like how they say that this is not intended for novices, and then they throw this in there. It does feel like this is a bit of a giant jumble of some guys' like streamlined thoughts just going down on paper. Defenders eliminate threats when possible, often by repeatedly leading a suit until declare and dummy have no more cards in the suit. Sure. Do not rectify the count for declare by cashing winners before you have to. This is very difficult, and I think there are certainly situations in real life where you can identify that like you're rectifying the count for declare in certain spots, but I think it's very rare, and if you overdo trying to not cash winners, then you're probably going to have a bunch of your winners go away. I think that's the much more likely scenario. So this one, very difficult to do in practice. This idea makes a lot of sense. Both defenders should guard a threat as long as possible to avoid turning a double threat into a more valuable single threat. I mean, we're kind of getting into the weeds of like good defense versus good squeeze defense. And these are different things, because sometimes it's really important for someone to abandon a suit early to convey strong information to their partner about what's going on in the hand. So yes, it's true that like we don't want to just like discard from Jack third very early in the play, but sometimes we want to do that so that partner knows to hold on to queen third later in the hand. Like maybe we're the one that's actually getting squeezed or comes under pressure, or we just need to make a descriptive signal in our discards. And so like when we're looking at hands from like a double dummy perspective, yes, this is the best way to try and analyze a double dummy problem, like making it as difficult as possible for declare by both defenders holding on to their guards for as long as they possibly can. But in real life, I think that this is a pretty impractical way of trying to defend hands. When having to unguard a threat, generally unguard one that is to your left. If partner can guard it, when defenders are sitting over to the left of all the threats, there can usually be no squeeze. I like how they say usually, because I'm sure there are examples. I can't think of one off the top of my head. Attack threat protectors, especially whatever, disrupt communications, causing one hand to be void in a suit. Sure, I mean, basically cut communications is a good way to disrupt squeezes. Do not signal partner that you have control of a suit if you may be squeezed out of that control. Okay. I mean, like, again, we're getting like real deep on this one, and this is going to be pretty impractical as well. You can see squeezes coming, or you can see like declare running a suit, but sometimes it's going to be difficult to count up how many tricks declare actually has. This is something you want to do as a defender, but there's never going to be a guarantee that like you can actually do this. So, you know, like let's say you're sitting with king, queen, jack, 10, fifth of diamonds, and declare starts pulling trumps. What's your first discard in the suit? Of course it's going to be the king of diamonds. Okay, great. Now Declare runs like trumps and clubs or something, and you get squeezed out of the diamond guard. Fine. Like, did we make an error earlier in the play? No, of course not. Like, we're just making the most sensible discard to our partner on some sort of hand. So I think, again, like, pretty impractical. Like, I would probably just strike this because this is not even useful. Double dummy, of course. Like, double dummy, we can see everything that's going to happen. When you see that you're going to be squeezed and end-played, make the trick costing discard early. Don't wait until the squeeze trick. Again, I think I talked about this last time in the squeeze video, like, not so clear that this is always going to be happening. Like, sure, if you know the entire layout of the deal, then go ahead and do this. But sometimes you don't know all of the missing honors, and so you can hang on to guards as long as possible. Or effectively, you just play your partner for whatever the missing honor is. When hoping to break up an impending double squeeze, and Declare has 2 threats with a winner in each hand, attack the suit thought to be 3-3 rather than the one that's likely to be 3-2. Oh, this was a very specific piece of advice. We'll get to double squeezes. I'll skip that one for now. Okay, simple squeezes, we're here. Great. It's only taken me 30 minutes to get to this point. The requirements for simple squeezes, mostly necessary but not always sufficient, are 1 loser in hand, all tricks but 1. So this is what we think of when we talk about rectifying the count. But there are simple squeezes that operate with multiple losers, 2 threats against 1 opponent. In all the examples we did, we had East was the one who was sitting on like all of the high cards. So yeah, something like that we have 2 threats. So in this case, the King of Spades and 3 of Hearts would be threats. I mean, I guess the 3 diamonds as well. Blah, blah. Any threat unguarded by the squeezy can be reached for caching. So entries are important. There are 5 basic types of simple squeeze. Okay, I've never heard of a sinister squeeze. I have no idea what a sinister squeeze is. Should I wait till Halloween before doing this episode? Ambidextrous squeeze. I don't know what that means either. The splitter squeeze, we really are just making up words, aren't we? The splitter squeeze, the crisscross squeeze, that's a real one. And the backdoor squeeze. Sinister in terms of left? Wait, what does sinister have to do with left? Is this some sort of joke I'm not in on? In all these squeezes, the last winner in the free suit is the squeeze card. Okay, the sinister squeeze. Both threats lie to the left. The last free suit winner lies opposite the threats. At least one is protected, only the hand. Okay, so I think we've... Oh, it's an old-timey meaning. Oh, okay. It makes sense then. So, as usual, I will pull up an example. Actually, this is basically the one that we just had, but let's once again do our infamous West is going to lead a spade into us thing. So spade goes around, and now we lead the ace of spades, and West gets squeezed here. And this would not work if we swap the East and West hands. We'll take a look at that in just 1 second. But so if East pitches the ace of diamonds, or West pitches the ace of diamonds, we throw a heart. Dummy's good. And if West pitches a heart, we can throw the now losing King of Diamonds. And once again, the hearts are all good. If we swap the East and West hands on this one, because Dummy has to discard in front of East. So here, when we cash the ace of spades, West can just pitch a club. Their hand is kind of irrelevant. I mean, they can't afford to pitch the diamond queen, but now we have to make a choice before East makes their choice. And so this is kind of the basic mechanism of like how some squeezes work and some fail, that we need to force the opponent to make a choice before we do, because they are the one that are getting condensed in the number of cards that they can hold first. If everyone had to play their cards at the exact same time, then squeezes would not be a thing, and then bridge would be really fucking boring. No offense. So that is basically how this position works. In many squeeze situations, you might have to rough out a defender's guard. Also, single threat guard may have to be transferred from the opponent who is over the threat to the one that is under. So we lead a spade. Oop. We need to be in dummy. Well, let's look at this example for just a second, right? So we can cash the ace-king of... Wait a second. Do I want to do this example? It's a little bit complicated, but I mean, I would basically say that it's a simple squeeze. So let's go ahead and take a look. So we play the ace of spades, West can pitch a club, as does dummy, right? But now when we play the king of spades, West kind of gets squeezed. If West pitches diamond, we can discard the 10 of clubs, cash the ace of clubs, and then the ace jack of diamonds. Instead, if West pitches a club, now our jack of diamonds has kind of done its job. This is the effect of like the whole squeeze thing, where West had to make a choice before us. Once they held on to their guard in the suit, we can discard the threat, the jack of diamonds. So East pitches a diamond, but now we can cross to the diamond ace. And now that that jack of clubs is singleton, we can lead the queen of clubs, pinning the jack, and the 10 of clubs takes the last trick. So what they wanted, which let me see if I can arrange this. What they wanted to do, as they talked about in their book, was this idea of transferring the guard. So here, assuming we know for a fact that West is the one with the king, queen of diamonds, we need to squeeze West. And then, once again, assuming we know East has the king of clubs, we can lead the queen of clubs. East has to cover. We win the ace. And now, when we lead the ace king of spades, our simple squeeze that we've seen before operates. West has to give something up before North makes a discard in this position. So yeah, I think the issue that I had was when I led the 4 of spades around, South was the one who was on lead. So anyway, cute little additional puzzle there. The ambidextrous squeeze. So this is the one that I originally showed, because this one is very automatic and happens without any sort of any need for a specific opponent to have one card. And then the ace of spades is going to execute a squeeze. So this time against West, if West pitches a heart, we discard the 3 of hearts, and then we play a heart up to the ace jack. But even if we move West's hand over to East side, we would still play the ace of spades and discard the 3 of hearts. And we don't even need to like look at West discard or East discard. We just need to pay attention to something, whether or not we know it's a winner. And if king of diamonds in this example, right? We just need to be on the lookout for the ace of diamonds. If the ace of diamonds was never played, then we lead a heart to the ace and hope that someone has been squeezed. So this type of squeeze happens automatically against both opponents. We don't care who holds what cards. And these are the types of things that I think like a lot of players have done before. Whether or not they understood what was going on is kind of irrelevant, but like you don't need to like focus on anything. You don't need to know about the opponent's shapes or anything. There's no guesswork or whatever. This happens automatically. I think the term that is frequently used for this is called an automatic simple squeeze. So It looks like they're using the word ambidextrous in place of automatic. Yeah, these do come up quite often, and there's kind of a skill in knowing what information you want to be looking out for and what information you can just like completely ignore. Because here, like, you could keep track of the king and queen of hearts, but like technically that doesn't really help you, because if someone discards the queen of hearts, like, they might just be out of hearts at that point. Maybe the king of hearts doesn't drop under the ace. Whereas if you watch the ace of diamonds and it doesn't show up, then the king of diamonds is not a winner. So you just play heart to the ace in the end position. Very simple. Yeah, declare doesn't care which opponent guards the threats. If the ace of diamonds does not appear on the squeeze trick, the only hope is that someone has been squeezed and the jack of hearts will take the last trick. Very true. Then there is the splitter squeeze. Okay, I'm ready for this one. What is this? So West leads ace spade. And now on the ace of spades, again, West is getting squeezed on this trick. Kind of similarly, at this point, like, we just need to pay attention to the ace of diamonds. But this squeeze is conditional on what West discards, because if West pitches the ace of diamonds, we need to pitch the three of hearts. If West pitches the four of hearts, we need to pitch the king of diamonds. And we don't know that the squeeze has worked at this point. We just hope that West also has the king of hearts as well as the diamond ace, and then a heart to the ace, and a heart back to the queen to take the last trick. So, I mean, the name makes some sense. I don't know what the actual name for this squeeze is, but it's like the queen doubleton opposite ace doubleton. Like, obviously, if the queen was in dummy, we would just have a finesse. It's similarly effective if we had like jack doubleton or 10 doubleton in hearts in the same position. We would just then need West to have all of the missing honors in that case. In all the squeezes, especially this one, if threats shown as are actually protected, blah, 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 blah. Otherwise, there may be doubt as to which suit the squeezy has unguarded. A situation known as ambiguity. Usually, ambiguity can be resolved after the squeeze card is played, but sometimes not. It is therefore wise to cash unneeded winners as early as possible. This is true. Let me try and think of an example. Oh, I got one here. Here's a simple example, right? So here's an example of why like cashing side winners is important. So we play the four of spades around to the five. Enjoy the holiday shift. I know that you yourself are not a mother, but you probably have a mother to thank. So thank you for stopping by. Good to see you. Have a good day. So the squeeze is going to work just as effectively if we cash the ace of spades immediately. I don't know why Double Dummy has like a difficult time analyzing this position. But dude, it really is taking like hours to analyze the 4-card ending. This is mind-blowing to me. So like the ace of spades works just as well as the ace of diamonds here. But if we play the ace of spades and West discards the queen of diamonds, we don't actually know what's happened yet, because it's possible that West has already blanked their king of hearts, for example. In which case we should pitch the two of diamonds and then hope that the king of hearts falls. And maybe similarly, depending on what East's hand looks like, East might have an extra heart somewhere in here. When West discards a heart, it might be correct for us to pitch a heart. I mean, not in this case where there's 3 diamonds outstanding, but it could have been correct for us to pitch a heart and hope the 10 of diamonds sets up. Instead, though, what we should do is we should cash the ace of diamonds first to clarify the position. Now we get a better count on the diamond suit, and then when we play the ace of spades, West gets squeezed. So this is what's meant by like cashing our winners before executing the squeeze, basically, because we get more information by doing so, and it resolves ambiguity. The backdoor squeeze. Someone needs to make a game show, like bridge technique or 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 Kama Sutra position. That's the game show. Oh man. Very good. Okay, the backdoor squeeze. Here we go. What is this one all about? And now we lead the ace of spades. And so communication between the hands is important. This is going to be the trick on which one of the defenders gets squeezed. It doesn't matter who holds this hand because we lead the ace of spades and follow with the 6 from dummy, regardless of what the opponents do. And again, all we need to look out for is the ace of diamonds in this position. If West pitches the ace of diamonds, great. Then we play heart to the king, and the king of diamonds is a winner. If West doesn't discard the ace of diamonds, we don't know if they've been squeezed in most situations. On this hand, we would. But we play a heart to the king of diamonds is not a winner, so we just play a heart back to the ace and hope that all of the hearts are good in the end position. So that's how this one works. Eric, that's really funny. But those are, it's surprising how many things in life can fit just like so perfectly into multiple different categories, especially like very diverse categories. If the spade ace had been in the north hand, this would be a simpler ambidextrous squeeze. The extra protect, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so far, we've had a lot of like leeway, I would say, a little bit in terms of the entries between the two hands. Like here, sure, if the ace of spades was in north instead of south, then we would still perform the exact same squeeze, spade to the ace, squeezing west or possibly east, depending on who holds the missing guards in all of these suits. But but the fact that the heart suit itself provides transportation makes this very easy, right? Like we just cash the ace of spades, be on the lookout for the ace of diamonds, and then we cash however many winners we have and see if our 9 of hearts scores the last trick. Okay, the crisscross squeeze. So this is where simple squeezes get to become a little bit complicated. So this is what a crisscross squeeze looks like. And it's a little bit more complicated because this is one of these positions that is ambiguous. In most cases. In this case where West is completely out of hearts and diamonds, we have a full count on the suit. But we're in this situation. The squeeze happens against both players because we do the same thing regardless of what West or East discard. We play the ace of spades, North following with the 6. And someone could get squeezed here if they have both missing red suit kings. So in this case, let's say East pitches a heart. Now we need to effectively perform like a Vienna coup type thing. And this is where I think a lot of people get tripped up when they look at simple squeezes, because the Vienna coup and the crisscross squeeze look somewhat similar in terms of the positions, but we need the communication here with the ace of diamonds. We could not have, for example, unblocked the ace of hearts before we tried to execute the squeeze. Now, if we play the 6 of spades back, East can afford to discard a diamond, and we can cash the ace of diamonds. The king falls, but we have no way to get back to the north hand. And for a similar reason, we could not afford to unblock the ace of diamonds before we execute the squeeze. So on the ace of spades, let's say East pitches a heart. Now we need to guess which king East has unguarded. In this case, it is the king of hearts, and we have a full count on the deal. But if West still had remaining red suit cards, we would be in a much more ambiguous situation. And so this is the nature of the crisscross, that the fact that we have 2 block suits opposite each other is necessary because we need entries to both hands. Like squeezes do not operate without entries, And here, the ace of hearts and ace of diamonds are the cards that provide the entries to both hands. So we need to necessarily have both suits blocked. And that's why it's called a crisscross, because we like go to one hand and then back to the other to cash our winner that they have abandoned their guard in. So is that all on simple squeezes, maybe? So for defenders, they say blank one of the guards early, not waiting for the squeeze card. Declare will probably go wrong, thinking the final discard blanked a guard. This is a bit of game of cat and mouse, I would say. Defender's winner squeezes partner. In many of these positions, don't overlook the possibility that squeeze card can be a defender's winning card. Typically, the next to last loser is conceded, simultaneously squeezing the partner of the defender who wins the trick. Another possibility is that a defender is thrown in when there are more than 2 losers, and then that is some of the names that we talked about at the start. Defenders squeeze declare. While the more advanced squeezes are rarely executed by defenders, the simple squeezes come up once in a while. Defenders must keep in mind the possible need to rectify the count of losers for a squeeze. That's a lot to ask of a player who can't see partner's hand. Declare squeezes self. Yes. It often happens that Declare caches too many high cards from one hand, with the result that there is no safe discard from the opposite. Perhaps after a defender caches one or more winners. Okay, next is trump squeezes. So let's see. Trump squeeze with unbalanced trumps. In a trump squeeze, the ability to ruff plays a part in the squeeze. The typical trump squeeze has these requirements. Okay, let's skip that. Here are the 2 entries required for 1 ruff and return to North's hand or protectors. Oh my God. Let's just pull up the example and then I can explain it. Okay. So, actually, kind of interesting to note, if we take a look at the double dummy here, a heart would end up defeating the contract, but a club also will kill the entries necessary for a trump squeeze to operate. So what ends up happening is after a spade gets led to the 5, trump squeezes are automatic. I'm pretty sure that's always true or universally true. We play the ace of spades and we're going to discard the 2 of clubs regardless of what the opponents do on this trick. So let's say West pitches a heart. We pitch the 2 of clubs and now East has a choice to make. And so the position of a trump squeeze is going to look something like this. The hand that has a threat, which could potentially be roughed out, in this case hearts, if East pitches the heart queen, needs to have 2 entries. We need the first entry to get over there, lead a club to the ace, so that we can rough the heart suit good. And then we need a second entry to get back over there to cash the winner that we've just set up, the king of hearts. Instead, if East had held on to the queen of hearts, East could pitch the 5 of clubs. And now we're in a position where, like I've said many times before, we need to guess, but this time West having both hearts and clubs makes this a legitimate guess. It is possible, for example, that West was the one who had the ace of hearts, and that we now need to cross in clubs and rough the heart suit good. West would have been squeezed in this situation. Instead, East is the one that happened to be squeezed, but we don't really know because we don't know the location of the missing honors or the distribution. So this is why it's important to build a picture of the opponent's hands as we're playing. But here, now we unblock the club suit, and the 10 of clubs is set up, and the king of spades is the necessary hand re-entry to get back to our winner. So we rough back and then cash the 10 of clubs. So trump squeezes all have this sort of structure to them. You want to cash all but 1 trump to perform the squeeze. So here, we cash the second to last spade, and we discard a club. And by discarding this club, it necessarily blocks the club suit, and this is basically what I mean when I say that it kind of resembles a crisscross squeeze in a sense, because like we forcibly block the club suit, which looks like kind of a strange thing to do, but it's necessary because we need to keep both these hearts in dummy to establish them as some sort of roughing threat against an opponent who has the heart ace. Hey, Koopa. Yes, there are some very I don't know who invented squeezes, but obviously like they were just having a laugh at at everyone else. I have to imagine with all of the naming conventions that were imposed. So yeah, we block the club suit, so it looks kind of like a crisscross, and it's really important to have both of these entries. Now, it is possible that one of the entries is the second to last trump that's played. So like, for example, if North had the ace of spades here, then we wouldn't need both the ace and king of clubs because we would already be in North's hand. So this is the essence of a trump squeeze, basically. And yeah, I mean, these things are very complicated because you really do have to have a read on what the opponents have come down to and what they're discarding from. And so that makes trump squeezes very difficult. This is actually interesting. The squeeze works even when both defenders control clubs if they both must guard against a heart ruff. So this, I think, was a Bridgemaster problem. Let's edit the hand a little bit. And so again, I mean, if we take a look at like what double dummy will tell us, like breaking this double entry to North hand is very important to killing these trump squeezes. So you don't always need to knock out two entries if you're trying to defend against a trump squeeze. You just need to knock out one so that Declare only has one entry in the end position in this spot. But, whoops, let's get rid of this. As always, we lead a spade, and now we play the ace of spades. And first, West gets squeezed in hearts and clubs. If they pitch the two of hearts, we always pitch the two of clubs, regardless of what the opponents do. So the squeeze happens automatically once again. Well, East can now pitch a club, which is safe. But now we cross in clubs, and we lead the king of hearts. And this pins the stiff queen now, sets up winner. Instead, if West holds on to the queen doubleton of hearts and pitches a club, we do as well. And now East is the sole defender with the club guard. They can't pitch a club, so they pitch a heart. And now we cross in clubs and lead the jack of hearts at this point, roughing out the ace. And so I don't know exactly the term for this. This is like a double trump squeeze or something. I forget. But yeah, this is kind of a cute alternative type of trump squeeze that can happen. Right. So they're talking now about how we need two entries to basically dummy in a lot of these scenarios. And so sometimes it's two entries in the club suit, which we just saw. Sometimes it is the second to last trump, the card that executes the squeeze, as we already took a look at. Here, rather than the king of clubs and dummy, we just have the ace of spades, and I kind of mentioned this. I don't think we're going to pull this one up. It's basically the idea we just talked through. Or an alternative could be, yeah, it doesn't have to be trumps itself. Sometimes we can run trumps early. Let me see if I can construct an example of this. Because this is kind of important and goes back. So this is really important. I need to construct an example because I think this gives a much deeper understanding for people who are trying to learn about squeezes. Okay. So spade gets led around to the 5. Well, this I think is like the moment where if you have familiarity with squeezes, you'll be able to spot the idea. But this is a type of position that could easily come up in real life. And once you know trump squeezes or have seen trump squeezes, what will you know to do at this point? You'll know to cash exactly one more spade, because this is how trump squeezes work. When you have exactly one trump, and this is kind of akin to the idea of cashing all of your side winners in a different suit before executing the squeeze. If instead of cashing a spade, we, for example, played a diamond to the ace and then tried something like roughing a diamond back to our hand, okay, West kind of gets squeezed on this trick. If they pitch a club, then we can unblock the club ace and rough a heart back to hand, and our hand's good. But West can actually discard a heart because we don't have the entries anymore to get back to the north hand, rough the heart suit good, and then get back there to cash it. So the ace of diamonds is the necessary entry, the second entry to perform the trump squeeze. But to get to a position where West can actually get squeezed, we need to come down to exactly one trump in our hand. And so this is kind of the reason why studying squeezes is actually helpful, because when you get to this spot, if you're familiar with trump squeezes, you'll be like, okay, I know the idea. The basic end position is I have one trump, dummy has two entries, and then I need to get over to dummy twice to be able to like possibly rough something good and then get back there to cash it. But the important thing that you learn is that you need to have exactly one trump. So playing a diamond to the ace doesn't work, but playing the ace of spades does. West can pitch a diamond safely for now, but now when we play a diamond to the ace, West gets squeezed. And this gives us the extra entry, and we've kind of tightened the grip on them by cashing that one extra trump. So this is a spot that I think people who have never seen trump squeezes before, even if they are familiar with like simple squeezes, would not have a chance of like figuring this out, either at the table or possibly from looking at like some sort of double dummy position for a little while. But yeah, once you've seen the idea, then great, you cash one extra trump, you discard some irrelevant card from dummy, and then you perform the squeeze like this. So now diamond to the ace, we can rough the heart suit good and cross back in clubs. So that is how trump squeezes work. Is that all that there is on trump squeezes? Oh, we have one more. A protector entry in the roughing threat suit. Okay, hold on. Here it is. You think I will enjoy the story? I'll take a look in a minute. Let's wrap up the section on trump squeezes. So we play the ace of spades. The squeeze is automatic. We do the same thing regardless of what West discards, pitching a heart from north, and East here gets squeezed. We've seen what happens if they pitch the club queen, but so now they pitch a heart, and we happen to have communication in the heart suit. So heart to the ace, heart rough, and now a club back to the ace to take the last two tricks. So I think that might be everything on trump squeezes. Oh, scissors squeeze. Ambiguity is frequently encountered in trump squeezes. Which suit has been unguarded? If a simple squeeze can be arranged instead, go for the simple squeeze. I think that this is debatable. I understand what they're saying, that like you generally want to play for the squeeze that has the least ambiguity. Simple squeezes tend to avoid ambiguity in general. And you want to play for the squeeze that, because, sorry, let me finish that thought. Because if we're just thinking about this from like a math perspective, which isn't really how I think about card play usually, but I know that a lot of people do. They just want to play for the thing that has the highest percentage chance of working. You have to assign yourself a percentage chance of failing at reading the end position in a squeeze when there is ambiguity. And I know a lot of bridge players are like super, like they think that they're just God's gift to the planet, and so like they're never going to misread an end position. But like you have to have some sort of humility when you think about these squeezes if you're going to approach them in this manner, because you're not going to read the end position correctly every single time. So if there is a simple squeeze that works, let's say that the chance that you can perform a simple squeeze is 10% on a specific hand, but you're going to get it correct 100% of the time. You'll always read the end position because all you have to do is pay attention to the ace of diamonds. Great. So that gives you a 10% success rate. Whereas if the chance of a trump squeeze is 15%, because you can protect against like more distributions of cards, but the chance that you read the end position is only, 60% of the time, then that's 9% that you actually succeed in pulling off the trump squeeze. And so therefore the simple squeeze would be the better thing to play for if you assume that you've weighted these values correctly. So you do take that into account, and I don't think that it's always correct to play for the squeeze that has no ambiguity, because sometimes these trump squeezes or strip squeezes or other things really do have a decent success rate. Like you're going to guess right often enough, probably better than 50%, probably even better than 70% a lot of the time, but not 100%. And so if they allow you to protect against more possible layouts of the cards, then sure, you can afford to fail sometimes. You can afford to look silly by misreading the end position. That's okay, because you're going to succeed more often in terms of your objective, which is making an extra trick. Look for a trump squeeze when threats are not located correctly for another type of squeeze. Well, that is not helpful. Since the roughing hand must have more trumps than the other hand, dude, these double spaces are killing me. It may be necessary to do some preliminary roughing in order to achieve the necessary trump distribution. That's true. I think having in the back of your mind this like picture of what a general trump squeeze looks like, something like this, where you get down to that 4-card ending that you need, right? Where you just have the 2 entries in one hand and some sort of roughing threat, and you have a singleton trump in the other, and then some sort of other threat as well in that hand. And it's like a very crisscrossy type of position where one of the suits is blocked. Then if you're familiar with that, then you can kind of visualize how to play out to a position that gets there. Defender. Blank the non-roughable guard early. Don't do this. Okay, this is really bad, I think. I think this is really bad. Like, yes, you can envision that you are getting trump squeezed, but a lot of the time, Declarer is just going to rough out your thing earlier, right? Like, if you blank the guard early in the hand, Declarer might just start cross-roughing, and then your ace comes down, and Declarer is like, oh, great, perfect. That's excellent. So anyway, yeah, this is one of the things where a partner needs to be cooperative if they want to give you a guess or want to give the opponents a guess in these positions. Like, they can't just discard all of their hearts. Otherwise, Declarer is going to have a full count on the hand if you blank your ace in a position like this. So the scissors squeeze. Okay, what's going on here? This is a sort of crisscross trump squeeze. I mean, I always think of trump squeezes as being crisscross, so like, what is more crisscross about this? Let's see. Let's set it up. I think by the time that the defenders know that a squeeze is happening, it's usually too late to try and like throw Declare off the scent. I mean, like you do your best, right? Like maybe on the second to last card, you try and stiff a king or something. But yeah, I mean, I think generally you're just trying to do your best to like save possible winners and discard losers and stuff like that. So what's going on here? We need to rough a diamond, don't we? Okay, let's go back. The 6 of spades wins. There we go. I knew the 6 of spades was in dummy for a reason. So we rough a diamond here, and this is actually a fascinating position. This is, what did they call this? The scissors squeeze, crisscross trump squeeze. Yeah, so we rough a diamond. You know, I wonder if this would be termed a knockout squeeze. I'm not sure. I think there are knockout squeezes at the very end of this book, and it's, again, I don't exactly remember what they are, but this seems like a very familiar position to me for knockout squeezes, where like we rough a side suit card and then kind of irrelevant, that looks fairly irrelevant to what we're doing, because like we could have just started cross-roughing clubs and hearts, but West happens to get squeezed on this trick. So they pitch a heart, rough the heart suit good, and then ace of clubs and a club rough to get back over to North's hand. So this is a very different flavor of a trump squeeze, if we even want to call it that. I mean, maybe it's just a trump squeeze because there are trumps involved and trumps are used for communications. But yeah, this definitely does not look the same as the other trump squeezes that we took a look at earlier. So a bit of a more complicated form of squeeze. And I do seriously wonder if this is a little bit misnamed. If you cash both spades, there is no squeeze. Well, yes. I mean, normally when we're trying to cross-rough, we don't pull extra trumps. More advanced trump squeezes, often combined with other types of squeeze to form a hybrid, are beyond the scope of this book. Oh, it is a book. There we go. Okay. 2 suited strip squeezes is the next thing. I think I am good for today.